What we have planned for today is an overview of the scholarship. How do you apply? What is it? How does it fit into the other scholarships and fellowships that my office works with? And then we will hear from each of the Hawkins scholars. So you're going to get a chance to hear firsthand what the selection process is like, how they approach their application. It's open to them what kind of advice they would like to share with our next group of applicants. But these two scholars are tremendous resources. They have been through the first cycle of Hawkins. The scholarship was launched last year. And so they are only two Hawkins scholars. So I'm going to volunteer them now to say that if you would like to follow up with them, ask them questions, ask for advice, I encourage you to do so. Our office is also a source of advice and support for you as you apply. So to give you a sense of the scholarship, I'll start with the presentation, but basically my office administers the scholarship, but the scholars are not selected directly by me or my staff. So I want you to know that going in, that when you come to us for advice on your application, that is what we are there for. We are not looking at a first draft and sending it to the committee. It's not like that. It's separate. So I manage the selection committee, but the committee is made up of leaders in industry, academia, policy from across the US and mainly from the El Paso region. But we have alumni, we have a consul general from the UK, we have the president of a Federal Reserve Bank. So these are the people who will ultimately read your applications, interview you, and decide who wins this scholarship. Okay, so Sina, just give me a thumbs up if this presentation is showing up well in the room there. Perfect. Okay, so the Hawkins Scholarship. There are 2 awards given out each year of $10,000 each. So these go to UTEP juniors. And then a junior is a student who has between 60 and 89 total transfer and UTEP credit hours. So that's the first thing I want you to check as you think about applying, is check your eligibility before you start the application. So what is the award for? Well, it's for students of outstanding intellect and character, committed to the service of others, who show promise of becoming leaders capable of addressing important challenges facing humanity. So that's a lot, right? I want to frame the Hawkins Scholarship as, and I've described it to students as a miniature Rhodes Scholarship. So some of you may have heard of the Rhodes Scholarship, which is a very prestigious award open to graduating seniors and recent graduates across the world. And it's for students as they're leaving their undergraduate institution. So where does the Hawkins Scholarship fit in there? Well, it's the preparation for you to go on and apply for competitive, prestigious scholarships like Rhodes. So you receive it as a junior, and then as you enter your senior year, you work with our office as you apply for maybe the Rhodes Scholarship, maybe a Marshall Scholarship to the UK, maybe a Schwartzman Scholarship to get a master's degree in China. Maybe you are applying for a Fulbright Award to teach English or do research overseas. So there are a lot of things you can go on and do once you've had the Hawkins Scholarship, but you should think of this award, and the reason why it's situated in our office, the Office of Student Fellowships and Awards, is because it is that pipeline onto graduate fellowships. So you'll see that reflected in the eligibility. Important to note that Hawkins is open to citizens of any country, junior students in any field, so you can be in any college in the university. GPA requirement is a minimum of 3.7 or above. You have to receive your undergraduate degree by August 2023, so you're a junior planning to graduate in the next year. Junior the year of the application, so the application deadline is October 5th, and so by October 1st, you have to meet these eligibility criteria. You also plan to attend graduate school in fall of 2023. So the idea being you get Hawkins as a junior, your senior year, you're applying to graduate school and for funding to go to graduate school. And that's very much part of the vision that President Wilson had for this award. There's also an age requirement. You have to be at least 17 years old by October 1st, 2021, but have not passed your 23rd birthday by that date. So if you're looking at this and thinking, oh no, I'm not eligible, I encourage you still to get in touch with our office to look at the fellowships on our website, because there are dozens of other awards that you can apply for besides Hawkins. So every fellowship is going to have its distinct set of eligibility criteria, but there are always lots of awards that are open to students in all fields that are maybe specialized to your field to look at. So you can start by looking at our website and then reach out to us to discuss programs you're interested in. So who was William Deane Hawkins, who the scholarship is named for? Scroll down to here. So this scholarship is named for First Lieutenant William Deane Hawkins. Hawkins was a resident of El Paso. He was an excellent student and graduated from El Paso High School when he was just 16 years old. He was awarded a scholarship to study engineering at UTEP, which was then known as the Texas College of Mines. He joined the Marine Corps after Pearl Harbor was attacked, and in November 1943, Lieutenant Hawkins led his men into action against Japanese-held Tarawa in the Gilbert Islands, where he was unfortunately killed in action. Hawkins was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for his historic acts above and beyond the call of duty. So as I talk about the selection criteria for the scholarship, I want you to think about Lieutenant Hawkins and what it means to be of service to others, to I'm looking here at this word heroic acts, but I mean, we're looking for students who embody this, this commitment to community, to serving others, to being a leader and leading others. And if you go and read about the Rhodes Scholarship, you'll see that the selection criteria for the Hawkins Scholarship are pretty much exactly the same word for word. So that also gives you a sense that we're seeing this as building up to awards that are very similar. So again, it's the mini Rhodes Scholarship for Hawkins Juniors. Let's look at those selection criteria. The first one is academic excellence. And it's important that we put that first, but that's not ultimately what your application emphasizes overall. So I'll go into what makes for a strong Hawkins application, but academic excellence is more of the first expectation that you are applying for this award because you meet that criteria. So we're talking about mainly the GPA requirement, the 3.7 and above, and then also involvement in activities that show that you are committed to becoming a leader in your field. So that could be undergraduate research, it could be internships, it could be other fellowships or awards, but it's not necessarily one of those or all of those. So academic excellence is a prerequisite. Everybody in the Hawkins applicant pool will have that. And so the question then becomes, how do you make yourself stand out as an applicant among similarly academically excellent students, which you all are? I mean, you're in this call for a reason, you meet the criteria, you're interested in this award. And so what I want to do and what my team will help you do is talk about how you can make those personal characteristics that make you stand out to the committee. So the selection criteria is where you want to start when you're thinking about how do I talk about myself and my experiences in relation to what the committee is looking for. So the second point, moral force of character and an instinct to lead in ways important to mankind. So think again about Lieutenant Hawkins, but think about this broadly. Moral force of character, instinct to lead. So I bolded the word lead because leadership is one of the personal characteristics that you're going to see a lot in prestigious scholarship selection criteria. Funding agencies want to support students who will go on to become leaders in their field. So we're not specifying the field here, it's all fields. And leadership looks like many different things. So that one of the topics that came up frequently in the Hawkins interviews last year was, how do you define leadership? And so that's a question that you should ask yourself. And as you do so, don't count yourself out. I mean, there's many ways to be a leader that don't involve, being the president of a student organization, which is an excellent way to be a leader. But there's also mentoring and motivating others. Perhaps you've been promoted as a supervisor or a manager at work. Perhaps you manage other researchers in your lab. There are so many ways and so many forms that leadership can take. And the most interesting answers in the interviews came from students who had thought deeply about what leadership meant to them and how they would see themselves carrying forward those dimensions of leadership in their field. The next criteria is energy to use their talents to the fullest, as demonstrated by mastery in areas such as sports, music, debate, dance, theater, and artistic pursuits. So if you're familiar with the Rhodes Scholarship, this one is going to sound very much like Rhodes. There is a stereotype that Cecil Rhodes, who the Rhodes Scholarship was named for, embodied this kind of superhuman combination of brilliance academically, but also sportsmanship. And so there's a stereotype that I think the Rhodes Scholarship would like to lean away from, that Rhodes Scholars are ultra marathon runners and rocket scientists. But what we're really going for here is, how can you help us get to know the other parts of you that make you who you are, that drive your passion for your academic field? So maybe you're a dancer, maybe you're involved in mock trial or debate, maybe you teach, maybe you coach sports. And there are all sorts of things that you do that are part of who you are, that do connect with what you study, or why you study what you study, or what you hope to do after you get your degree, that you may not have necessarily explicitly made that connection between before. So as you write your personal statement for Hawkins, I want you to be thinking about, who am I outside of my studies? What life experiences led me to pursue this field? And, why do the careers I'm thinking of after I get my graduate degree appeal to me? What is it about that? And how does that relate to activities, experiences that I've had before, or that you continue to have in university? So again, this is broad. There are a lot of ways to use your talents, and talents can come from pretty much any area. Finally, truth, courage, devotion to duty, sympathy for and protection of the weak, kindliness, unselfishness, and fellowship. So if you're thinking about, you're looking at these criteria, you have academic excellence, moral force of character, energy to use your talents to the fullest. And then the last component is, how are you going to harness all of that which you bring to serve others? So how do your talents, personal characteristics, how are you going to use those to make the world a better place? So that's really, you want to be thinking about service to others, thinking about what that looks like and what you plan to do. So you're going to be tracing a line in your personal statement, a narrative between your studies, your personal characteristics, why you chose that field, what it means to you, but it's also going to be somewhat of a linear kind of story that you're telling. Here's who you are now, and here's who you hope to be, what you hope to do after you get your degree. And that's oftentimes where you'll weave in this theme of service and how that fits into your goals. Let's talk then about the application components. So I've put here, the first step is to confirm eligibility. The application itself is online. It's on AwardSpring. That will launch on June 1st. So everyone here will get a link from us when the application is open, but you can also just go to utep.edu/student fellowships and find a link to the Hawkins Scholarship page. In that application, you'll be asked to fill out some demographic information, academic information, what's your major, GPA, etc. Number 4 here, I've bolded personal statement. This is the heart of your application. So we're going to talk a bit more about that. But the other materials you'll submit are a resume. And with the resume, it's important that you tailor it to this particular opportunity. So you remember those selection criteria that I went through before. You want your resume to be that other component of your application that backs up what you say about yourself in the personal statement and what your letter writers say about you in their letters of recommendation. So if you have questions about that part, you can also meet with our staff, but you should think of the application holistically. Everything you put in there is the committee's first chance to meet you. They're not going to get to meet you in person first. They don't know anything about you. So how are you going to put different parts of yourself into the application in a way that paints a picture of who you are and makes the committee say, oh, I remember that person. I want to meet them. They told the story about this experience. And when they read your application, every single piece supports that picture that you are providing of who you are. So a resume, you're going to provide a transcript. Unofficial transcripts are accepted for the application phase of the award, and you can just download that on Goldmine. You're going to have 2 letters of recommendation. So letters of recommendation are also an extremely important part of the application. So this is something you can start thinking about now. Who are the professors, mentors? You have to have 1 letter from a faculty member. It can be a faculty member at UTEP or another institute of higher education. And you can have 1 letter. So you could have both letters from a faculty member. You can have 1 from a faculty member, and the second one can be more of what you'd think of as a character reference. So maybe you have a teacher from high school or a coach or somebody that you've worked with or have worked on an extracurricular with who knows you very well. That would be an excellent person to write your second letter. So some advice that we give on requesting a letter of recommendation is to make that ask early. If you know that the application is due on October 5th, about 2 months before or more, you should be talking to your professors or mentors, whoever you're thinking of writing that letter. You should reach out to them and say, I'm applying for the Hawkins Scholarship. Here's 1 to 2 sentences about what the award is. I would like to include a letter of recommendation from you to support my application. And then you ask, can you write me a strong letter of recommendation? So it's important that you emphasize, that you make it clear you're asking, you have limited number of letters and you're asking, do you feel that you can write me a strong letter? And this gives the letter writer the opportunity to think about and say, yes, I do know this person well enough. I can write and I want to write that strong letter of recommendation. And 99% of the time they'll say yes. But it also gives the letter writer or potential letter writer the opportunity to say, perhaps I only had you in 1 class. Perhaps you should ask someone that you've worked with a little more regularly. So it's very important that you do that screening first when you're choosing people, but that you also give them the opportunity to say yes, or to say, I may not be the right person to supply this letter for this opportunity. Now, when you request the letter and they say yes, the next step is to share with them your draft application materials. So what I would do is, as you get towards July, August, and you're really making progress on your personal statement, and it's getting close to, when classes are starting again, and since you're such excellent students, you're planning ahead and you're writing your essays over the summer. And now that would be a great time to send your letter writers your draft essay, your draft personal statement, and say what it is that you would like them to highlight in the letter. So if it's someone you've worked with on research, you can say, please highlight my leadership in your lab, for example. So remember, you want every piece of the application to speak to the selection criteria in relation to things that you have done. Finally, you'll also submit a photo, and this is not shared with the selection committee. This is for our office so that when awardees are selected, we can quickly put together a press release to celebrate your achievement. Okay, so before we go further, I want to direct your attention, you may have been reading on the screen, the personal statement prompt. So this is pretty much modeled again on the Rhodes Scholarship, and it may read as disturbingly general. How do you know what to put into this when they say, tell us your personal story in your own voice? Who are you? Question mark. What matters to you? What are you hoping to do in the world? What inspires you? What are your passions? Discuss your aims and priorities and the contributions you have made and hope to make. What do you want to study in graduate school, and why are you pursuing graduate study? So the way that I would approach this is I would start just by writing down short answers to all of those questions. That can be a way of just getting some of the thoughts out on paper. As you start to put that into an essay, though, I would go online and read other personal statements for the Rhodes Scholarship, for other awards that you're thinking of applying for. Not necessarily to get a model of what you're going to replicate, because that's not what you want to do. You want to sound like yourself. You want the essay to ultimately be authentically your voice. But you're reading it to get a sense of, what is this peculiar genre of fellowship essay? When they say personal statement, what's the balance between academic achievements, materials, motivations, interests, and personal characteristics. And so what you'll see, and so you read these essays with an eye to what are the strategies that the writer is doing to answer the questions for that particular scholarship. And what you'll see is, and as as we saw in the Hawkins Scholarship finalists essays, is weaving together the academic and personal in a way that paints a picture of the person, who they are now, what they hope to do in the future. And so I really recommend reading other scholarship essays to get a sense of how this is done, because the committee members who will be reading your essays have read for the Rhodes Scholarship, they've reviewed Rhodes candidates, a number of other awards, Schwartzman Scholarship. So they are very used to reading essays, fellowship essays. And what you want to do is give yourself enough time as you're drafting this essay to move from those initial stages. And look, we all go there. The first essay needs to be allowed to be whatever it is. You need to get the ideas out, but the writing is in the revisions. So you're going to give yourself time to do a minimum of 5 drafts of this essay, maybe up to 12 drafts. This is entirely normal for a fellowship application. So don't shrink away from it. That's why we've designed our entire office around working with applicants and writing support, because writing, getting feedback, getting outside eyes, multiple people giving you a sense of how you come across in the essay, maybe some experiences that you should talk more about. That is the process, that is the developmental process and the value of applying for Hawkins Scholarship. So while you may not ultimately receive this award, it's preparing you to apply for that National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. It's preparing you to apply for a Fulbright Award to teach English in Korea. I mean, there are so many benefits to going through this process as a junior that will pay dividends for you as you apply to graduate school, and other ways that, having gotten that first experience under your belt, you can then go on and use those lessons to get more awards later. And I also like to just be transparent about the odds of getting scholarships. So when I was a PhD student, I applied for 10 to 12 dissertation fellowships in my final years in graduate school. So 10 to 12, that's a lot of time, 10 to 12 Hawkins scholarships, basically. It's a lot of essays. I got 2 awards, and that is very normal. So go into this process knowing that it is part of your development that will help you in the future. Hawkins is one opportunity. It's a means to an end. So see these awards as a way of getting to where you want to be, to get the experiences and training that will allow you to make the contribution you want to make in the world. But scholarships and fellowships are not an objective assessment of your value as a scholar or student. They're just simply not. There are a lot of awards, and I encourage you to just keep applying, because ultimately you will get to where you want to be. Okay, so let's look at the application timeline, and then we're going to move along quickly to hear from the scholars. So the application opens on June 1st. The deadline is October 5th, and that is a firm deadline. You'll find with fellowships, there are no exceptions. If you turn it in at 12:01 on October 6th, you are not eligible. Rhodes takes the same approach, so we are taking that approach here. You submit your application. There's a preliminary round of selection in which the finalists are chosen. So a subset of all applicants become finalists. Finalists are then invited to an evening social event at the president's residence, where they will meet the selection committee. That's on November 22nd. On November 23rd, you participate in an interview. This is an interview with the committee, and it is designed to mimic the Rhodes interview process. So when you talk to students who interviewed for the Hawkins those students who just joined us, please mute your mics during the presentation, and we'll open it up for questions after. Okay, so the interview is very much like a Rhodes interview in that you come into the room and you have the committee in front of you, and they will ask you any and all questions about your application. It can be a challenging experience, but it's one that, again, prepares you to interview for other awards. And the committee ultimately wants to support applicants. So they're going to ask you questions that make you think on your feet. But ultimately what they're doing is they want to help you. They want to give you that experience so that as you go on to your next opportunity, or maybe even win the Hawkins Scholarship, that you have already been through that. So when you're interviewing for that graduate school program, you've been there, done that. You interview for Mitchell Scholarship, you've done it already. So that's on November 23rd, and the awardees are announced that same night. So in between then, you can work with our office and the Writing Center and your professors to get feedback on your personal statement. You should share your personal statement with as many people who you feel can give you useful feedback. And then, let's see here. Yes, so we also offer finalist support for mock interviews with finalists. Okay, so before I turn it over to our Hawkins Scholars, I want to go through a few other opportunities that you should be thinking about. So for students in STEM fields, there are a number of awards here, including the NSF GRFP, which you apply for as a senior or first semester graduate student. It's $34,000 a year for 3 years. We've had a great record of students winning the GRFP. 6 students last year won this award. So that's something to look at if you are thinking of going to graduate school in the sciences. Similarly, the GEM Fellowship, also for STEM students. Fulbright is open to students in all fields. Goldwater is a scholarship for sophomores and juniors. Hertz Foundation is a graduate fellowship, and DAAD Rise Germany is for research internships in Germany. We had a student win this last year. This is open to students from of all citizenship. Public Service and International Affairs, number of awards here. I won't go through them all, but the ones for undergraduates are the Gilman Scholarship. We had 12 Gilman Scholars this past year. Let's see, what else? We've also had a Frederick Douglass Scholar. We had our first Fulbright grantee in 6 years this year. That's a recent graduate degree. And then Rangel, Pickering, and Payne are for graduate school. Truman is for juniors. So there's a number of awards you may already be eligible for, and I encourage you to apply for them at the same time as Hawkins if you are eligible. So reach out to our office and let us know if you plan to apply for any of those. Awards open to students in all academic fields. Fulbright, again, is open to students in all fields. And then these highly competitive UK, Ireland scholarships that I mentioned before, Marshall to any university in the UK for a graduate degree, Rhodes to study at the University of Oxford, Mitchell to study in Ireland or Northern Ireland for 1 year to get a master's degree, Gates Cambridge, this one is open to international students, study for a graduate degree at Cambridge University, and Schwartzman Scholars, also open to international students, is to pursue a master's degree in China. Okay, so that was a whirlwind. I'm going to turn it over quickly to our scholars and to hear what they have to say. And we'll open it up for question and answer, and feel free to put questions into the chat as well. Thank you. So Sina's in the main room getting us set up, so it'll just be a moment here.
And hi everyone. So yeah, I'm here to talk about like my experience, right? Like, is that kind of what you want to hear about, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think it was a very overall amazing experience. First of all, you learn so much going through this process, and it really opens up your eyes and your mind to know about other opportunities, like Dr. Meinzer was mentioning right now, like the Mitchell, the Marshall, the Rhodes. I highly recommend anyone who is really interested in pursuing like master's degree, graduate degree, right? Please, 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 like apply to this scholarship. It is an amazing process that will prepare you for this. Prior to applying to Hawkins, I had no idea how to write a personal statement. I didn't even know what that was. So I learned how to write a personal statement. I learned how to write my resume for a scholarship because I hadn't done that before either. I had only written like resumes for applying to internships and companies. So I learned how to write like completely different type of resume that I previously didn't know how to. I learned how the interview process works as well, how to answer questions, how to actually think about who I am, right? How do I express myself to a panel of judges in 1,000 words and in a 30-minute interview, right? How do I make them say, okay, I know who Monse is, I know what her passions are, and I know what she wants to do, right? It's so challenging, right? But the Hawkins Scholarship really prepares you for that. And it is an amazing experience. So something that I did a lot going through this process was I would meet with Dr. Meinzer at least like once or twice a week, just to start like understanding like what do I need to do? What exactly is it that I need to write? How do I get all of this stuff together? And eventually it just started to come, together little by little. My first draft of the personal statement was an absolute mess. Like, yeah. So I think I wrote that being like, I think I did have more than 20 drafts at one point. I was like, I don't know what to put down, and I want to talk about this and this and this, because trying to explain who you are in 1,000 words is really challenging. Like at first you might be like, oh, 1,000 words, that's like a lot. How am I going to get to 1,000 words? Eventually you're like, how do I cut back down to get to 1,000 words, right? So please, if you're planning on applying to the scholarship, please take Dr. Meinzer's advice. Go to the OSFA office, go to the writing center, get as many people as you can to read your personal statement. Because along the way, not only will you start like seeing your personal statement coming together, you'll actually learn so much about yourself, right? Hawkins, I think one of the most challenging things for me, at least for Hawkins, was how can I make a group of people understand who I am with this very limited amount of, time and words. And that is a huge challenge, because one of the things that I would continue to do in my personal statement was kind of like write about myself, assuming that they kind of already knew me, which is a huge mistake. Because sometimes when you talk about yourself, you forget that, wait, they don't know about this experience, or they don't know how much this means to me. So then you take a few steps back and you're like, wait, how can I explain where this passion was born? Why I'm doing what I'm doing? And that's something that Dr. Meinzer really made me think about when I was writing my personal statement, because of course she didn't know me. So when she would read my personal statement, she would be like, okay, this is cool, but where did this passion come from? Like, convince me like that this is what you're passionate about. This is what you want to do, and why? Like, why is this relevant to your personal statement? Why should the judges know this? Right? Because at the end of the day, that's what Hawkins is about, right? It's preparing you to be able to tell your story to a panel of judges who at the end of the day will be choosing like who wins the scholarship or not, right? And I just think it's opened my eyes so much to how many opportunities there are out there. Because previously, I think I was just thinking like, oh, maybe I'll get a graduate degree, maybe I won't, and I'll just see what happens. I hadn't thought about applying for scholarships. I really didn't know about fellowships. I had heard about the roads, but I didn't really know what it was, nor how it worked at all. And then after going through the Hawkins process, I really learned, okay, this is how it works. This is how I can, talk about myself in a personal statement. This is how I can answer interview questions, right? And also learning how to ask faculty or other professionals for a letter of recommendation. Sometimes that can be really intimidating. Like at first for me, I was like, how am I going to ask this, professor that I want a letter of recommendation while sounding like professional, being respectful, but at the same time being like, oh, can you make it like a really good one and it's due by then, right? So yeah, that was that was definitely a learning experience. I had a lot of fun going through the process as well. I got to meet with a lot of different people. I got to learn a lot about myself. I highly recommend this process for everyone, because even if you don't walk out of there winning the Hawkins Scholarship, you walk out of there a winner just because you applied. Like, this process teaches you so many things. You'll be more prepared for when the day comes that you're interviewing for Marshall, for Mitchell, for Rhodes, for any of the other fellowships or scholarships. And you're even more prepared for anything that life throws at you, like when you interview for a job. Even if it's not the same type of interview, it does prepare you because now you're a little bit more ready to be, okay, this is who I am. This is what I'm bringing to the table, right? So it really makes you think about all of those different things, which is why I think it's such an amazing experience, even if you don't win it. So yeah, I highly encourage everyone to do it, please. Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else I can mention or any questions?
Let's save the questions for after Montserrat.
Okay.
That was really wonderful. I loved hearing more about your experience. This is the first time I've heard about it since we went through the interview. But I just want to kind of reinforce some of what Montserrat was saying about working with others, and then also don't talk yourself out of this opportunity. Don't be intimidated by our scholars and their achievements. This is an award for you. If you are eligible for an award, you should apply for it. Let the committee decide if you get the award or not, but don't take yourself out of it.
Definitely, definitely. And you really never know until you try. Something that I really thought about going through this process was something that my mom tells me a lot, and it's in Spanish. So I'm going to say it in Spanish first and I'll translate it. It's el no ya lo tienes. Basically, the answer is already no. So shoot for yes, right? Go for the yes. Whether you apply or not, you already know that the answer is no. So go and get that yes, even if you walk out of that scholarship, like I said, even if you walk out of it not getting the scholarship, you did get something out of it. You learned. Maybe next time you're like, okay, I can improve my personal statement. I can learn how to answer the interview questions a little bit better. You can ask for feedback. At least you met a whole bunch of people who are professionals in the field. They know what they're doing. So you can get feedback from them. You can learn so much from this opportunity. Yeah, I feel like go for it.
Thank you, Montserrat. That's wonderful. Appreciate it. And we'll hear more from Montserrat in the question and answer. Let's turn it over to our second Hawkins scholar, Andrea.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. Well, what can I say after Monse did such a great job? First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here. It's, again, a great opportunity to be here. It was not so long ago that I was where you were, even though that sounds kind of cliche. It's the truth. And I just want to thank Monse. This is the first time that I actually get to meet her, and she's such an amazing and well-spoken individual. And I'm so happy to be part of this journey with her and get to know her and see, wow, this is a great recipient. And it makes me feel also very happy about myself. So with that said, about my experience, well, as I said, the first time that I heard about the Hawkins was in an info session, similarly to this one. I was going on behalf of the honors program, and it was the time that the Hawkins was first introduced. And so it was a great event because Dr. Heather Wilson, she was there and she presented the scholarship. And you could really feel the importance and the level of, how can I say it, gratitude and hope that she had in this scholarship. And that was something that instantly caught me. Well, that and the fact that I was eligible to apply. As an international student myself, I have faced constant rejection because of my status. And that was something that honestly, it always pushed me back to finding my true potential, I guess. And so finding that the Hawkins was available to anyone, as long as they meet other criteria that mostly, how can I say it, that most students are able to achieve, on their own, and not because it's not something that they can change, like a nationality. That was very encouraging for me, and I hope that's encouraging for many of you as well. If there's any international students, which I hope, in this info session, please take this as an opportunity to open your horizons and show others that there's no limit beyond what you put for yourself. So with that said as well, I wish I could say that my application process was as how can I say it? As hardcore as Monse's, but mine was a little different. And this was because after the Hawkins Scholarship, the info session, I was very excited, but I saw that the application was not until October. And to myself, I thought, well, that's a long time to go. Like, there's plenty of time. Boy, was I wrong. So I'm here to show you that you should do things in the right way. And what I mean is, you should ask help if there's people that are willing to help you out. In my case, like when all of the pandemic struck and everything, I was technically locked out of El Paso for a while. And so I lost a lot of like the notion of time within it. And then a gracious email from one Dr. Mesa came in and was a reminder for the Hawkins. And was like, you're right, I was so excited about this and I had totally forgot about this, so let's get back on track. And so after that, and after looking for all the help that I could get outside of the info sessions, because sadly, by that time, I had already missed most of the sessions for the writing statement purpose and for writing your letters. So I was working in a race against time, as they say. But in that time, I figured, as Monse says, my mom also uses that very same phrase, you got the no, go for the yes. And so I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, I'm going to feel worse about it if I don't get it because I didn't even apply than if I didn't get it because I applied. And so it was a wild journey. Thankfully, I had a lot of contact with my professors. And so they were able to work with me relentlessly for a recommendation letter. And once the technicalities were due and they were good to go, my challenge was more about the personal statement and the interviews. Why? Just because out of my, how do you say, personality, I am more of a people person. Like if I can see you and I feel you there, I can talk to you better than if I'm writing a paper. And I don't know if anyone else shares this notion. And as Moses was saying, how do I get them to know the real me? That I really want this, that I need this. How do I get that go through? So once the personal statement was sent, and thankfully we were chosen as finalists, it was another reality check because it was not only about you now, it was about you and 10 other people that were working as hard as you were, that were fighting as hard as you were, and that they really wanted it. And so thankfully to all the tools that Dr. Mesa already mentioned, you get to meet all those individuals and you get to see their journeys and where they're standing. And that's where you also say, I know I want this, but I know they want it too. And it's a lot of talking to yourself in a way because sometimes you feel like they deserve it more and they're better than you and they're this and they're that and you're not. And my advice would be, don't let yourself make that call before somebody else does. And even in that, it doesn't mean that you're not all that. It just means that it wasn't your time at the moment and that you have more time to prepare yourself. And again, as Monse did mention, even for applying, you're a winner. Thankfully to the Hawkins administration, the people that help you, you never feel like it is a losing game. Because I remember very strongly that even as I was applying, they would always tell me, if you don't get in, we still have a lot of opportunities. We'll still have a lot of help for you. We still have all these doors that we want to open for you. So please come back. This is just one step in a staircase of opportunities. And so that was very, very encouraging to me because I remember asking like, but I'm an international student, but I'm this, but I'm that. And every but that I put in, they would curve me and be like, okay, yeah, but there's this, but there's that. So that was also very welcoming from the committee, from the administration, from everybody there. So other than that, I would just say to be honest, think about what do you stand for. I was reading all the PowerPoints as Dr. Mason was going along. And honestly, at some point I was like, wow, did I really win this scholarship? Because I never considered myself a dancer, a sports person. If I was me a year ago, I was caught up on the international welcome, but when I read the availability, I was like, I don't know if I'm all of that. But then when you think about it, you can be a leader in so many ways that sometimes you're not even aware that you're being a leader. And that's one of the core of the Hawkins, and one of the ways that you can, again, curve out on those things. Maybe you are not the best ballerina, the best quarterback out there, but you're the best group leader in every organization that you are. It could be one, it could be two, but you are a leader somewhere, and that's what matters. And so once you put those things together and you believe in yourself, I know cliche, but it's true, and you believe in yourself and you believe what you can do for others, and how the Hawkins will shape that and transform it into a whole new individual that you've never met, but it's a great person and you want to keep growing alongside that person, then it's all going to be worth it, and it's all going to be for the best. And as I say, you may say, well, yeah, you're talking all this because you already won. But no, I met so many wonderful individuals, besides Monza, of course, along this process, that maybe they didn't win and maybe they didn't get as finalists, but now some of them have amazing internships, amazing other scholarships through the Office of Student Fellowship, and they're doing great. And it goes back to, like, there's something for everyone everywhere. It's just a matter of you to look up those opportunities, to knock as many doors as you can, and eventually someone will get tired and say, okay, come in. So that's sort of my 2 cents in this. And please, I know it is a weird, at the moment, a journey, because you feel, well, I bet Monse and I felt the same way. You couldn't look anything up on Google, like, oh, Hawkins purpose statement, because there was nothing like that. So please take my word on this. Use Monse and I as a reference. We're more than happy to help you out, guys. If anyone has a question, a story, or something that they want to pass through someone that has already been through the process, please take us on our word. Also, take Dr. Meinster's, Sina's, Morgan, everyone at the office help, because they're amazing. They never make you feel like you're annoying them, which is totally not the case. They're so much happy to do their work and help you out in many ways as they can. And so, yes, I hope you guys enjoy the presentation. I hope you guys learned a lot and are very motivated to go ahead and do something for yourself and for others. And, well, last point that I almost forgot. The good thing about the Hawkins is that it's open to any college, any major. Never feel discouraged for what you are majoring in. I know it has happened to me plenty of times. I'm like, well, I'm not an engineer, and so on and so on. Because what you do is important to you and to others, and you're doing it for a reason, and that's something that you should definitely put in your purpose statement and definitely think about. And, well, yes, I guess that's more like my experience. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous, but I'm very happy to be here and share my story with you. And I'm very happy for Monse that she got to share her story with you and with me, because I think those stories help a lot, and it helped encourage a lot of individuals as we once were. So yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. It's really wonderfully put. And I think, we're going to turn it over to questions from the students in the audience. But I just want to say, so 2 things that I hear in Montserrat presentations are persistence and, positive self-talk, right? Like, learn how to encourage yourself through the process. And I think that it really demonstrates the value of taking on something like this. And then looking back at our first year of Hawkins, I'm so proud of all of our finalists, and it's just really a delight to see you, as you're getting into your senior years. And anyway, I'm sounding great. We're very proud, and we want to turn it over now to the students who joined us today. So, Sina, if you could come up and maybe a little bit of an echo. Thank you. And so, let's students, we have our 2 Hawkins scholars. Let's ask them. I want you to ask questions about the process, about the application. The technical questions you can email to me and my team. We can address that in a one-on-one eligibility, but this is your chance to talk to the scholars. So let's open it up. We'll keep an eye on the chat. And then the student in the room, we won't put you on the spot, but if you have a question, Sina will field that as well. So you can also just unmute yourselves and ask a question. So we'll open it up now.
Hello, can you hear me all right? Okay, yeah, so I'm a bit confused as to one of the requirements. You said that it's for people that are planning to attend to graduate school on fall 2023, correct? However, by the time that this application must be submitted, which is October of this year, do we already need to have like an undergraduate degree or not?
No, you don't. And to clarify, that you don't need to have the undergraduate degree by the time you apply. And to clarify, a lot of students ask, do I have to be 100% sure I'm going to graduate school to apply? No, you don't have to be, but you have to have a sense that this is something you could see yourself doing. And if you win Hawkins, that you follow through with that. So that's just for everyone. But thank you, Victor. It's a good question.
Thank you so much.
Other questions? Be bold.
How was the interview for both of you? Like, what do you all felt at the time?
And I think Sina will have to come and unmute.
Yeah, so the interview, it was pretty nerve-wracking, I'm not gonna lie. I was nervous that entire day, like until my interview time came, and I was really nervous during the interview. But something I kept telling myself, and I really recommend for everyone to do this as well, like before your interview, during your interview, is breathe, stay calm, and be yourself. Because at the end of the day, that's who they want to get to know. They want to get to know you. So something that I feel a lot of us try to do, especially when thinking about interviews, is we try to be like, oh, what is the perfect answer to this question? Like, if they ask me this is probably what they want to hear. No, they're not looking to hear anything in particular other than who you are. What do you think? How do you feel about things? How are you motivated about certain aspects, right? They don't want to hear this perfect answer that you kind of polished off from the internet. No, they want to get to know you. So don't think of it as an interview, as in like they're going to just ask me a bunch of questions and I have to answer. Think of it as a sort of a conversation that's all about you. And that might sound weird, but honestly, that helped me be a little more relaxed to think about it as a conversation instead of like an interview, because that can be very intimidating. So for me, the experience, although I was nervous, I feel like it went overall well, especially like towards the end, because I was able to feel like calmer, like more secure, and I was like, okay, I know what I want to answer, I know who I am, and I know who I want them to see that I am. So that's my advice on that. I don't know about it.
I know that's a great answer. For me, it was, as Monse said previously, about being yourself. My one core advice would be, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. I know a lot of places see vulnerability as a weakness, but it's not. It's a sign that you're being honest and that you're being truthful. Between us, I don't know how many people are in this position, but between us, I remember my last question. It was a very personal question to answer, in a sense, a very emotional one, and I was on the brink of tears. And I could see that the committee noticed, and I was so scared because of that. But they were so welcoming and so happy that I was being honest with them, so much to the point that I was emotional. And so once everything wound up and I was like composed and everything, they gave me so much words of encouragement. And I felt that they were giving me words of encouragement because I was not going to get it. But it was only because they were truly amazing people and individuals that they wanted you to feel safe and to feel that you were telling them the truth, that you wanted it so much, that it meant something so big to you, that it put you in that situation of vulnerability. And so that's what I want to leave you with. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to be honest, obviously in the respectful parameters. And don't be afraid of small things that get into our head. I was always thinking about, oh, are they going to notice my accent? Are they going to be able to understand me? Are they going to be able to see me? And in the end of the day, those are the things that distinguish us from others sometimes. Oh, well, she's different because of this. Or, oh, she sees this things differently because of this. Some of the questions there were challenging questions about social issues, big social issues, and how would you address them? And those were the questions that would most likely put you aside from the other participants or finalists, the way that you answer questions. So again, don't be afraid to be yourself, don't be afraid to be honest, and go for it. Again, these people are wonderful people. They're not intimidating. They are because of their titles, but thankfully to the event that they host before, you get to know them in a different light, and it makes you more comfortable once you walk in through the interviews. So don't think they're gonna throw you out to the wolves. They're not. They're always gonna be help along the way. So yes, thank you for your question.
They're human beings.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we have time. We're just about at time, but let's take one more question. I see a question from Adrian in the chat that says, what did they ask you? And I know you've covered a few of those questions so far. So we can address that, or we can also open it up. Victor has his hand raised as well. Go ahead, Victor. We can weave the answers together.
Yes, from what I'm seeing on the chat, you mentioned that we need lower than 90 credits. So I think I'm not gonna be eligible because I'm gonna be over 90 credits. What other scholarship would you say is better for me to pursue, and gather information, because this one is not applicable to me.
So I would encourage you to go to our website, and maybe Morgan, if you could drop the link in the chat again to utep.edu/student fellowships, click on Explore Fellowships and Scholarships, and look for awards where you're eligible as a senior, because now is the perfect time to start thinking about those applications for next year, to apply this year for an award after you graduate. But let's take this last minute. I know we're slightly over, but any additional comments, maybe to Adrian's question of what else did they ask you, or what was your favorite interview question, your least favorite? I don't know, anything like that. I think it's really helpful to hear about the interviews, because that's maybe the least transparent part of this process.
Well, I can start with that question. It might have not been my favorite question, but something that really made me think about the whole process, and it made me create some sort of advice for these situations. They did ask me a question beyond like personal interest, which was about if I was president of the country, what would it change and why? And I remember thinking, as Monse mentioned in her previous answer, what is the answer that they want to hear? And then I said, no, what is the answer that I want to give them? And so I remember shifting the answer to my capabilities and being, well, first of all, I'm not from this country, so I wouldn't know what to answer. But in Mexico, if I were president of Mexico for a day, I would do this. And that showed them that I cared not only like for the answer that they expected, but for something that I cared about, which was Mexico, as my home country. And after that, I did mention how the relationship with Mexico would improve the relationship in the United States. And I kind of like fused their question with my answer and give them both in a, I would say, somewhat original way, that they saw me, they saw a little bit of my background and what I care about and how I approached these answers. Like, well, yeah, she didn't give me the answer we were expecting. And they even told me, well, we were not expecting that take, but it's very interesting. So again, that's what I say, mold the questions to you so that you can shine through. And that would be my take on that question.
Mm-hmm. I also found that question to be the most challenging one, actually, because I'm no expert on like politics or anything like that. So when I was asked like, oh, if like you were president, what would you want to be your legacy? I was like, wow, well, let's see. But yeah, I found that one challenging too. But I think one question that particularly comes to mind now that really made me think and threw me off completely during the interview So I'm majoring in computer science, but I'm minoring in literature. So I have a passion for both of those fields. And something that we were talking about, I don't remember how we got to the subject, but we were talking about technology and the future of technology and how, with AI and having like a lot of like, robots, I guess, to help you do things and facilitate things in daily life, right? And I was telling them, at one point I was like, yeah, because like robots, no matter how advanced we may ever be able to make a robot, you know how nowadays there's like even medicine that's done, through like a robotic arms and stuff. That's insane. But anyway, I was like, for me, I guess a robot will never be able to replace a human. And I said that. And as soon as I said that, I don't remember who it was, but they asked me why. I'm like, well, that's a good question. So first, it's okay for you to take a second to think about your answers. Don't be like, oh, because of this. Like, breathe and be like, you know what? Let me think about this for a second. And then I was able to come up with an answer that I believed in. It might not be an answer that everyone agrees to, maybe not even the committee, but I really believed in that answer. And I was able to like give examples and support my answer because I believed in it. I didn't need to Google anything. I didn't need to do any research. Obviously I couldn't, right? Because I was in an interview. But the point I'm trying to make is when you're in an interview and they ask you questions, especially challenging ones, they're not expecting you to give a solution, right? They're not grading you in 100, this, works. No, they're grading you in what do you believe and why? Even if it's completely wrong, maybe, like technically or whatever, as long as you believe in it and you show that to them, you're good. Because you showed them like, this is what I'm passionate about. And this is why I'm passionate about this. This is why I believe this. And no one else may believe it, but I do. And I'm able to support it because I'm passionate about it. And it comes through. So that's what I want to leave you with, like from the interview. Be yourself. Be your authentic self, because that self is the one that's the most passionate about your answers.
And that's why practice the interview as well, to get to a level of confidence so that you can pause, as both have said, and take that, take the question in and give a thoughtful conversational answer. It's not this, as they've said, it's not this rapid fire, here's the fact, there you go, next. That's not what we go for. The thoughtfulness and reflection and connecting it back to what can you learn about the candidate through how they answer the question, in addition to what they say, right? So, all right, well, thank you so much to our scholars, to my staff at the OSFA. Big round of applause for everyone here. And we're gonna close out now, but we will, my staff will stay on the Zoom call for a couple of minutes to answer any additional questions. But thank you so much to our scholars. We wish you the best, and I look forward to continuing working with both of you on your graduate applications or fellowship applications. Thank you, everyone.